Okay, so you guys can all see the presentation, can you? No? Let me try that again. No, it's not what I wanted you to see. All that. Take 3. Maybe here. How's that? Can you see the PowerPoint now? Just give me a thumbs up. You're the only screen I can see there, Ian.
Sorry about that. I forgot I was back on mute. So yeah, we've got the like a cover photo, and then and then a very small screen up in the right-hand corner.
Okay, so we're going to focus on the bigger screen.
Okay, yep, no worries. Yep, the smaller one too is Joe Cordell Cooper.
Yeah, that's me. That's the next bit.
Yep.
I'd just like to get that totally on the screen. I seem to have lost my techie skills somewhere. Let me try one more time. Try that one. Nope.
That's good. Yep. Oh no, that's you. Yeah. Yeah. Now you're good.
Yep. Cool. Okay. Yeah, welcome to my little webinar. I just love doing stuff like this because I feel that when people have an adventure to look forward to, that they get really excited about their lives. So thank you for joining us today. Just a bit about me. I'm a holistic personal trainer. I have just been awarded PT of the Year in Tasmania for the 2nd consecutive year. So feeling very chuffed about that. And I feel that there is a link between the niche that I work with, which is fairly complex people, but also getting people to set their sights on things that light them up. I think that's really key with personal training. I'm from Tassie, born and bred, and I'm a really mad keen hiker. I'm also the founder of a charity called Tasmanian Iconic Walks, and that's just one-day walk which raises money for stroke survivors and stroke research. So that's a little bit about me. I need to move. There we go. Oh, okay. So a couple of other things that I thought you need to know. Oh, that's a bit interesting. No. Is that I've done the Overland track. I've done that 3 times, actually. I've done it in fully wet rain every single day, full blue sky, and a cross between the two. So it's always been in summer. And my tip for you there is just expect variety, because that's what you'll get. Your idea, Ian, too, that it is really, really crowded. There's certainly places that are crowded, but they do heavily control the amount of people going in on the walk too. So when you look around, you think, oh, there's 30 people here. It's just those 30 people, except for a few spots where others can pop onto the track, but it's not as busy as you'd think. So in addition to that, I've hiked in Malaysia, Nepal, Peru, New Zealand, and I've just come back from the Larapinta track. Professionally, I offer Friday night hikes, which is kind of the entry level beginners stuff. Kathy comes along to that. You've been along to that, Ian, as well. It's always on the eastern shore. So we do that right through winter when it's dark, and through summer when it's not dark. I've helped a lot of clients also with their goals. So training for Peru, New Zealand, the Camino, 3 Capes, Overland Track, Kokoda. So some of that has high altitude stuff with it. So yeah, both. I do all of the above, sea level right through to high altitude stuff. And I've been at altitude about 4 times too. So yeah, I've learned a bit about that. So firstly, why do we need a preparation hiking strategy. Firstly, like I find I'm up against the general idea that it's just walking. So why would we need to have a fitness strategy around that? But from a personal training point of view, it's prepare to avoid injuries. Really, that's the number one thing. In the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, and with your back, particularly if you're carrying a certain load. We want to prepare so we can keep up with the group. And a lot of people come to hiking training because they don't want to be the weakest link. They don't want to be the slowest. They don't want to be holding the group back. So those sort of emotion based motivations are quite common. Of course, you enjoy it and thrive rather than survive. I've been on some hikes where it seems to be a bit of a badge of honour on how sore you are, how hard it was. And I just don't buy in on that. I just want to scoot through and, don't always scoot through, but there's enough fitness there for me to stay safe. It's nice too to be able to walk and talk. So we need an amount of fitness to be able to do that, because just the social connection that happens when we're in the bush, and we can just let our guard down and be ourselves and enjoy the day. But also we need to be able to complete the walk. There's nothing worse than setting off on an adventure and finding that you don't have the fitness and you do have to come out early, and it's so disappointing. In my mind, hiking can be akin to a half, a full, or an ultra marathon effort. Like the Larapinta trail that I just completed was 230 Ks. So, it was really hard. And I know some people run it crazy. I didn't run it, but I had a fairly heavy pack for it. So, it was hard work. So I guess what I've got here on the left and the right here is the Get Fit hiking. So you actually find that you're building your fitness as you walk. And I don't think it matters how short or long the multi-day event is. I think your fitness is always going to improve when you're out on the trail, but going into it deconditioned, I just think is a really bad idea. So the idea is that you just get out there, put your pack on. I used to do this in the day when I was young, and you've hiked for longer times and get fit on the go. And this would suit me now if I was retired and I had heaps of time and I could walk 3 or 4 days a week. But as it is, like many people, I've got full-time work. I've got a family. I've got lots of hobbies and lots of things that are competing demands, study as well. So I just don't have time to get myself fit just by walking. You can certainly do it, but it takes a lot longer time and you need to have that time. But this is really suitable if you're going for shorter adventures and you're already able to do 4 or 5 hour hikes, popping the pack on for, and going for a weekender. Yeah, sure, why not? But once it starts to get be a bit longer, I think that we need a better strategy. So for the time effective training, I've put Get Fit hiking as well. You need to do some hiking. You can't do all this in a gym. I want to put that right up there. You need to get some hours into your legs, into your ankles, and really know your body under this circumstance. So I always feel that you need some short, sharp workouts, short duration, nice and intense, and just work on your weaknesses, targeting your weaknesses. So how do we know if we've got a weakness? Well, we know because we get sore there or we get injured there. So that's what a weakness is. If our back's aching, if our hips start to ache after the 3 hour mark, and we know that we've got 6 hours walking each day, then we really need to build those glutes up to support the hips. I will add that the exercise science actually supports this time effective training. So in terms of like HIIT training, HIIT is your high intensity stuff where you might go up and down hills or up and down stairs or wear something quite heavy. The exercise research shows that if you're doing like HIIT training, that high intensity stuff, 20 to 40 minutes, that is enough. if you do twice that, you don't get twice the fitness gain. It just doesn't work like that. So 2 to 4 or 3 to 5, so somewhere around there of those short, sharp sessions are going to be really incredibly beneficial to you, particularly if you know that you have to pick up your heart health. So if you've got competing demands, don't put these things on the back burner till you've got time. Just be time effective with your training. Still going to need to do some weekend stuff. And there's 3 things that I want to point out here. So this is my youngest client, actually, Lily here, and she's not training for hiking, just for everyday life. And you can see there she's got a backpack on her and she's doing calf raises and so on. So this is a muscle conditioning exercise. Do not neglect your calf strength. Okay, you can see she's up on her toes and then low into her ankles. So she's really stretching into the calves, and the Achilles tendon around there is getting accustomed to this constant change in the calves. So I think we know from the exercise science, we can get significant improvements in 6 weeks. But if you're going out on a much longer thing, overland track and beyond, 6, 7 days beyond, look, I really think like 12 to 16 weeks at least. I prefer a 26 week campaign. And that doesn't mean that I'm like really serious about what I'm doing in that first sort of 10 weeks. But I'm certainly starting to think, all right, I've got to, get the glutes stronger, get the calves stronger, get myself stronger, or a little, do some of that short, sharp stuff, and start thinking about all the hikes that I want to do as part of that getting fit hiking phase, which is very, very beneficial and needed. So this can address our postural issues and malalignment. We need to work with a pack on to see how our back reacts. If we've got any scoliosis or any structural issues in the spine, it's going to be compounded by a heavy pack. For Kathy, who's coming on Larapinta, we like nothing more than 8 kilos. So that's going to be a blessed relief, because the last time I did it was like, anything from 15 to 21 kilos, depending on how much water we had to carry. So the pack was constantly unloaded, loaded, unloaded, loaded. And yeah, my back in the early days was sort of like, really, wow, that it really is heavy, especially when you're putting in a 6 to 8 hour day. So I guess if we don't do this, the risk is tearing muscles, being overly sore. This can change your gait. So the whole way that you actually walk changes, and that affects other parts of the body. So the issue might be in that your ankles are not stable, or your calves start to get really, really bunched up and sore. So you start to walk differently, and that plays out in the rest of the body. So we want all of this sorted out in the lead up to our more serious training efforts. Secondly, our ligaments and tendon conditioning takes up to 4 months. Okay, so when are you going to get ligament and tendon issues? Now, I'm not talking about rolling your ankle and getting a trauma. I'm talking about like overuse stuff. So Achilles tendon, tendonitis is quite common. Plantar fasciitis, I came back with plantar fasciitis because I hadn't done enough time on my feet in the lead up to Larapinta, and the Larapinta trail was very, very hard. I'm almost through the other side of that. But more time in my lead up would have prevented that. And tendonitis, like that, these things, they hang around for a long time. They can. I've heard of people having plantar fasciitis for years. So far, it looks like I'll get through this, within a 3-month window. Which is partly how I got plantar fasciitis, being an acute thing. It's able to reverse with the right treatment. But if you've got some long-standing issues, you want to build your fitness so that's not going to be a problem. And it is quite possible to get stress fractures too, particularly in your feet. Not so much on the overland track because it's so muddy and soft, but on doing the entire Larapinta trail, and some of those like really long epic Camino things, just getting stress fractures in the feet is a thing, or if you've got arthritis or something like that, can really flare up and get a bit nasty. So you just want to know your body. So a really good starting place is to know your terrain. So on this side here, this is Larapinta. So you can see, you know, like it's pretty hard. It's pretty dry. It's pretty hot. Over here we've got, you know, this is your typical overland track, lots of roots and things like that that you've got to get up and over. So the kind of shoes you wear would be completely different. So you can see I've got like hiking shoe here, but I would wear a boot in this, because the chance of you rolling your ankle, particularly if you're not particularly strong in your ankles, is heightened just because of what you're walking on. So start to know your terrain. You can see here, this is me. This is actually New Zealand, but it could be the overland track. I've had this happen in the overland track. I've been up to my knees. So just being aware that this might happen, and what are you going to do about it? You're going to freak out. You're going to see I'm quite happy. The guy behind me is quite happy. We knew we were going into that on the Milford track. So just, is that likely? More likely on overland track mud. Although they have like worked on the track so much now that it's almost a dry boot track, not like Three Capes, which is definitely a dry boot track. So you don't want a boot on that because it's too hard. You want like a shoe, hiking shoe, something with a bit more cushioning. New Zealand overland track, you want a boot with that ankle support, and it helps you cope with that always shifting environment. But this is Larapinta here. This is one of the gorges we go through. So you can see it's rock hopping. There's nothing easier than that. Like, that's not overly hard. But you know, you've got to be steady on your feet. Got to have your balance sorted to do that. So just know the terrain that you're heading into. Now, I don't know your level of skills with reading topographical information, but this is the topographical. This is the simplest sort of thing that you'll get. So this is the overland track, and you can see down here where it starts down here. Overland track's around that 80k mark from memory. This is Rodney Creek where you start, and then you've got Cradle Mountain up here. You might not go over Cradle. Oh, no, that's the plateau. Yeah, so huge climb there, 700 metres on your first day. Yay. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And that's what Tassie hiking is like. It is so undulating that you might look at this. Where's a good spot? These little lumps here. There might be 10 other little lumps in that. It's very undulating terrain. It's quite doable, but yeah, just know that it's not a straight line. And then these blue bits here, I know that the colour here, so it's been, you know, this image has been pulled out, so it's not great, but these blue things here represent the different huts. So you can look at, you know, this is going to be a big day here. This looks like it's not going to be too bad, but this bit here is where a lot of the side trips are. You might go to Pelion East, or you might go to Mount Ossa. So if you go from here to here, you've got a 3 to 4 hour day. If you do some side trips, you could be up to a 12-hour day even, you know, like it's really, really varied. So make the plan from day one, really. What are you going to do? What plans, what side trips are not of interest to you, are not your priority. So if we have a look at Larapinta, so this is 230k, so 3 times the overland track. So the topographical information is not great in this image, but just to give you an idea, it shows all the highlights. But what you really need to do is get like map information. Okay, so this is the Larapinta stuff. You've got your 5 maps or your one big one. We took these little ones because they had all this extra information in there. So they described the walk, each section of the walk, and then they showed you some of the highlights, some of the plants and things like that. They do actually give you, when you sign up for their Overland track, they usually give you a map and a book of some description. But there's also these couple of things here. So there's the Overland track app. I looked that up today. It's like $3.99 or something small. So you get really good information there. This is just a map app that I use. So it's got that topographical information in it. But you might find a Facebook group or a blog or some books or, something like that. So this is all under the idea of just know what you're getting into. We had some conversations with some people from who were just starting the Larapinta Trail, and they were really unprepared. They really had no idea what they were getting into, and it's just like, gee, read the map at least. But they were like, oh, I'm going to do 25 Ks, and it's just like, you're really not, because you've got a creek crossing and a gorge to go through and a mountain to climb. You're just not going to do that unless you start at 4 a.m. So just know what you're going into. Now, you need to know about your tracks too, like, are they easy, well marked, level, duck boards, paved, gravel? Are they more like a fire trail? Are they well marked but rough, rocky, muddy, uneven, scree, tree? Have you got creek crossings, or are they unmarked and vague? Now, in terms of Larapinta and the Overland track, you're mostly dealing with the top three, okay, probably the top two even. But it does get a bit rough on Larapinta and places in the Overland track as well. You're not going to need GPS to find your way. But if you've got that little Gaia GPS, you can get the free version and download them. I think you can download the map. I know I used to open the map to where I was going and it was always there. But if I didn't do that and I got somewhere where I didn't have internet, I couldn't download it and I couldn't use it. But if I'd already opened it, it always knew where I was on the trail, which is kind of cool. So just, again, know what you're heading in and train to it best you can. So if we look at like a 7-hour walk, so 7 to 10 hours would probably be the longest day if you're doing all the side trips on the Overland track, and for you, Kathy, Larapinta, I think probably 10 hours would be, I'd be surprised if we had a 10-hour day. More like probably 7, 8, I would think, would be the tops there. But here's a few things, and this comes up time and time again. If my walk is rated 17 kilometres and 7 hours, do I train for 17 Ks or 7 hours? And the answer is it's always the time. Always go for the time, not the Ks. Because if you train in a city or on a fire trail and you get through your 17 hours and then you get on something that's undulating or something, you might not get very far in, and it takes you 2 hours. So always train for the time so that you're fit enough. I see time and time again people saying, oh, we've been walking for 4 hours straight, but we live in the city and we can do 16 Ks in that time. And they come into it with that expectation. It's not realistic. So if you live in a city, you need to find some fire trails at least, maybe a beach. I'll talk about that a bit more. And if you can literally only train for 60 minutes at a time, that's another conversation that needs to be had, because if you're going on like an extended multi-day, you might be in a bit of a pickle if you've got a heavy pack. But basically, once you've researched your walk, pick the biggest day and the most challenging day and train for that. So in terms of a chunk of what you've got to focus on, go for the biggest day, the most challenging day, that's 8 hours, right? You're just working up to being able to do that. And this is what this might look like. So I say plan backwards. So by the end of 10 weeks, let's say we're doing this over 10 weeks, we can do that. We can do 17 Ks and 7 hours. Okay, by week 8, a little less time, a little less distance, and so on for week 6, 4, and 2. Okay, so you might like to do that on your weekend. And obviously these, like in these starting things, people might say, but I'm starting and I can already do like 3-4 hour hikes. Do I need to go back to here? No, you don't. You start here and just get more time on your feet. Okay, additionally, you might like to do some HIIT training. That's that high intensity stuff, even a spin class, something that just keeps your heart up and going. It's better if you can train on hills, but if you can't, do this. Stairs, hill walk, stairs. Stair stuff is great if you're doing 3 capes, a lot of stairs on that. So up and down, knock yourself out. It's one of the few exceptions. Usually I like people going on hills because it's different on your calves. But on stairs, if you're training for something that's got a lot of stairs, yeah, do a lot of stairs. And as I said, the exercise science, 20 to 40 minutes, maximum 2 to 3 times a week is sort of your training zone. If you do twice as much, you don't get twice as much gain. Okay, you still get gain, but not twice as much gain. That's where the exercise science is on that. I like to do something strength-based, lots of reps, lowish weight. So when I say what's a repetition, so if you're doing squats, you're doing 15 to 25 reps with a lowish weight, because that's what hiking is. It's endurance stuff. There's no point doing, one-time lifts of 100 Ks or whatever crazy thing that some people are doing in the weight. That will not help you with hiking up a hill. And then if you've got some rehab issues, if you get a bit sore, throw in something rehabby, some Pilates, aqua aerobics, yoga and swimming. I always head to aqua aerobics, and I do like hot yoga, because that's good for like Larapinta. No good for the Overland track, but really good for Larapinta, getting accommodating that hot that you're going to experience. And Tassies aren't good at that. And of course, progressively, you're going to want to add weight to your pack. Even on short walks, take your pack. I used to have like 2 packs there. So if I was going out for a couple of hours, I'd wear that, which was between 8 and 14 Ks. And then I had the big pack, which was, like 14 Ks and up. And that was my dog walk pack, and just put it on. And it just makes such a difference to have those really short things. I walk my dog for 20 minutes with a heavy pack on, and it just starts to feel lighter. You're stronger. Go figure. So here's a couple of strategies for building your multi-day endurance. And this is if you can't go out often for overnighters. So try to do some shorter multi-day stuff.
Sorry, Jo, I'll just cut in. The thing's not working. The screen's not showing anything. Sorry.
Can you other guys see what I'm reading?
Yeah, mine's okay. Yep.
What about you, Kathy?
Yep, I'm fine.
Oh, that's a bit weird then.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? I'm going to send this presentation to you anyway. So just, I guess all I can say is just listen up. Sorry about that. But the first strategy I say is getting some experience with walking on tired legs. Walk Friday evenings, for example, 2 to 3 hours, Saturday all day, and Sunday first thing. Okay, 2 hours first thing. Just see what your body's like with that kind of fatigue thrown at it. Eat well. And if you're not sleeping in a tent or something like that, like if you're just sleeping at home, same thing, Friday night hike, Sunday Saturday all day and a couple of hours on Sunday. And that'll be really good for you. And taking every opportunity to walk, particularly wearing the heavy pack. So the dog gets extra walks when I'm in training for things, and, using stairs and so on, taking every opportunity. At the end of the half or full day hike, you're tired, right? But do one last push, turn around, go and do the last bit of what you just did. So you get that practice of walking tired, because often on multis, you're walking tired. So just get used to that so you don't freak out when that's happening. Beach walking, I cannot more highly recommend beach walking because it simulates mud, snow, creek beds. And be in the soft sand. Okay, so if you're going around on Bell Reef Beach, there's also the rocky shore too. A bit of rock hopping is particularly good for you. It's going to do you well for both Larapinta and the Overland track, particularly when rocks are a little bit uneven, a little bit rocky. This is all good training, and it's going to make your ankles much more stable. Okay, and this might sound like a funny thing, but it says if the weather is the opposite to what you'll get on the trail, just go to the gym. I remember I was about 2 weeks out from going to Larapinta, and it was just bucketing down, and it was cold and windy, and I thought, well, Larapinta's not going to be like that. If I was training for the Overland track, I'd train in that. I'd still go out. But because it was Larapinta, I was just like, hell no, I'm not going to go out in that. Like, I'm just going to go to the gym and do one of the gym workouts that I'm going to send you, okay? And again, I'll make that point of progressively adding weight to your pack. So some gym-specific stuff, step-ups, step-downs. So I've got a video on this. Stepping up is great for the glutes, and stepping down is great for the hamstrings. You need to practice that control of coming down, and this will give you the ability to protect your knees, because I see a lot of people when they're new to hiking, they kind of thump with each step, particularly when they've got big steps. That's a goodie. Lots of squats and lunges, wearing backpacks. Now, I've got one workout where I'm using kettlebells or some weighted stuff. If you've got that on your back, that's even better. Okay, that's even better. I've already talked about your calves. Just one more time. Do not neglect your calves in your training. Doing raising and lowering. Sustained squatting sounds like a funny thing, but I'm talking toileting. So you've already worked out, how am I going to do that in the wilderness? Is it 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, up on my toes? Can I squat right down comfortably? Some people can and some people can't. So how are you going to manage that? Do you need your hiking pole with you to just have a practice of that? It sounds like a funny thing to be suggesting, but you really benefit from that. And I'm talking to two guys in the room who probably don't need to squat as often as the ladies, but you get my idea there. And I've also sent some image of like a simulated creek or log crossing. So basically this is a bit of an obstacle course where you can just step over things and just practice using your poles, which sounds like the most obvious thing in the world, but I've seen people they get their poles and they don't know where to put them. So just have some practice with hiking poles. They will extend your endurance. So they'll be great for you. Now, I'm just mentioning my hiking Larapinta tour that I've got, 3 spots left. So 4 tickets sold. It's just 7 people. So I won't bang on about that, because if you're not here for that, you're not here for that. But if you are, when you get the handout, there's a little link. You can look at the itinerary and decide if you would like to come along to that. So where to next? I've got some resources for you. There's some free ones. I also have this 10-week, 10 email series. I can just see I've got less than a minute to go on this. So if you've got questions, have a think, and we'll get kicked out and we'll jump back on. But we are coming right to the end of this. And it talks about not only the fitness, but the food and the gear. So I talk a little bit about that in that 10-week course. Sometimes you just need an appointment though. So I